All right, here's a fun fact for the day. Did you know that your lungs are actually really chatty organs? They have millions of tiny air sacs, called alveoli, that are constantly talking to each other, like gossiping in a big group chat. And this chatting is essential because it allows oxygen from the air we breathe to quickly spread throughout our bloodstream and keep us alive. But here's the kicker. Sometimes those alveoli get a little too excited and they start to leak. And when that happens, our blood can end up in our air sacs instead of the other way around. And this isn't just some rare medical oddity. It's actually something that happens to all of us at some point, usually when we're feeling really sick. Like what happens when someone has the flu or COVID. The lining of the alveoli becomes inflamed and the leaks start to open up. Normally, the air sacs and the blood vessels that surround them are separated by a thin barrier made of cells and other structures. This barrier is only 1 cell thick, which helps gases pass through quickly. But when it gets damaged, the barrier breaks down, and suddenly the blood and the air sacs are mixing together. And you might be thinking, "Whoo, that sounds bad." And it is. That mingling of blood and air can cause some serious problems. When our blood starts mixing with air in our lungs, it can cause a condition called pulmonary edema, which is basically like a fancy way of saying that our lungs have filled with fluid. As the air sacs fill up with liquid, it becomes harder and harder for us to breathe. And if things get really bad, we might need to use devices like ventilators to help us out. So obviously, we want to stop that mingling of bodily fluids from happening. But interestingly, this mingling is actually a good thing. Kind of like when your mom lets you eat dessert before dinner because she knows that if she doesn't, you'll sneak some cookies while she's not looking. In this case, the alveoli are kind of like a mom, and the blood is like a kid who wants some cookies. And the gas exchange is like the main course of dinner. Normally, oxygen from the air we breathe diffuses from the alveoli into the blood. But if there's an air pocket in the lung, the oxygen can't get to the blood properly, and we start to suffocate. To prevent this, our bodies have evolved to make sure that enough air gets into the air sacs to keep the oxygen coming. One way they do this is by making sure that the blood isn't just sitting around in the alveoli. Instead, it moves along pretty quickly. This keeps the alveoli from filling up with blood, which could block the flow of air and cause suffocation. But sometimes our body's mechanisms for keeping the blood moving aren't enough. For example, if someone has a condition called pulmonary hypertension, their blood vessels can become blocked and blood can pool in their lungs. This can lead to a dangerous situation where the air sacs are full of blood, but the blood isn't getting enough oxygen. In these cases, the body tries to compensate by sending more blood to the lungs, but this can make things even worse. It's a bit of a vicious cycle. More blood means more opportunity for leaks to happen, which causes more inflammation and more leaks. And that's why treating conditions like pulmonary hypertension is so tricky. Doctors have to find a way to reduce the leaks without also reducing the amount of blood that's available to carry oxygen. So next time you feel a little under the weather and hear yourself coughing up a lung, remember that your lungs are actually trying to talk to you. They're literally chatting with their tiny air sacs to make sure that you get enough oxygen to stay alive. And while a little mingling of blood and air might sound scary, it's actually a sign that your body is working hard to keep you healthy. Speaking of working hard to keep you healthy, I just want to say thank you for being a viewer. We're so glad that we get to share this journey of discovery with you.